never forget what they tried to minimize, and never accept the racism that does this. And even as the ceasefire had been negotiated, Israel murdered hundreds more Palestinians. Each Israeli hostage was exchanged for 30 Palestinian women and children, a shocking ratio which shows the scale of Israel's mass incarceration of Palestinians, including children. Since 1967, over 1 million Palestinians have been arrested by Israel. 1 in every 5 people, every family has been affected. We remember Dr. Hossam Abu Safiya, his colleagues, patients, and all the Palestinians in Israel's torture and death camps. Dr. Abu Safiya has been denied access to his lawyer again until next month. We demand their release. Today, almost 200 Palestinians, including hopefully Ahmed Manasra, are being freed. Welcome home to them. Freedom for all the prisoners. Israel's attacks on Palestine haven't ended. They have pivoted more extremely than ever to the West Bank, with airstrikes on Jenin and illegal settlers and soldiers terrorizing communities. They have murdered at least 14 people in Jenin this week, shooting doctors and nurses, displacing thousands, bombing and acting just like they did in Gaza. They have murdered 870 people in the West Bank since last October, and they do this because they never face consequences for any crimes. And Ireland is part of the culture of impunity that allows this, and that is shameful. And what about our next government? They are already backtracking on their election promises to enact the Occupied Territories Bill. Micheál Martin said they will bring forward a new Occupied Territories Bill. He says the current one is unconstitutional, but it was Fianna Fáil who brought it to the Dáil. So was it not unconstitutional then? Now we're hearing it might be dumped altogether to appease Trump and his fascist text bros. We will not stand for this. For 15 months of genocide, there were 0 sanctions. Our trade continued. Sometimes it increased. The central bank is facilitating the sale of Israeli war bonds across the EU, bonds which directly fund genocide. The Israeli embassy closed itself, but we should have closed it. There are Israeli weapons in our airspace, and the US military is still in Shannon Airport. There is no point in us supporting South Africa's genocide case at the ICJ if we are complicit in genocide too. Last week, Micheál Martin announced that Ireland has adopted the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism. This is a shameful betrayal of the Palestinian people and of the hundreds and thousands of us who have been showing up in solidarity for 15 months. It is appalling that this has been adopted without consulting a single Palestinian or anti-racist organization. This definition is an anti-Palestinian definition, so discredited that its own author has disowned it as a tool to witch hunt criticism of Israel. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, and over 100 other organizations all oppose it. And we have to ask, why did the government do this? And look at how it was sneaked in. We criticize Israel because it is an apartheid, genocidal, rogue state. We are an anti-racist movement of love and solidarity, and we will not have our speech shut down. Last Monday, Micheál Martin welcomed the release of the Israeli hostages from Gaza, and he did not even mention the 90 Palestinians released from Israel's dungeons. Many of them are children and the elderly, many held without charge or trial, and all of them abused and hurt. This is shameful. Palestinian lives and freedom matter. Our last and our new government do not represent us. Yet again, we remind them they have legal obligations to act to prevent genocide. But recognize our own power too. This movement, the pressure from us, from below, from the streets, has pushed the government to every word it has said, and it's to its limited actions, from statehood recognition to supporting South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice. We forced them because we know they don't want to act. So we have to keep up the pressure and keep demanding action. They must enact a meaningful Occupied Territories Bill. Enact the illegal Israeli settlements divestment bill. Enact the arms embargo bill. End all trade with apartheid Israel. Stop the central banks facilitating the sale of Israeli war bonds. Get Israeli weapons out of our airspace. Get the US military out of Shannon. End all diplomatic ties. And sanction Israel now. So keep advocating for Palestine. Keep boycotting. We've been part of the international boycott campaigns led by the BDS movement that has seen AXA divest from Israeli banks, Puma drop its sponsorship of the Israel Football Association, and the profits of complicit companies drop. This week, the BDS movement announced that McDonald's has lost over $7 billion in revenue due to global boycotts because BDS is unstoppable. Israel tried to criminalize Palestinian joy at the ceasefire and the release of their people, banning flags and expressions of happiness. But they cannot suppress Palestinian joy. They cannot fracture Palestinian community. They cannot extinguish the Palestinian will to live, to love, to be free. No matter what, we see the doctors and nurses who stayed with their patients, the civil defense rescue teams, the journalists, the teachers, the fishers still going out to sea, the people who set up kitchens to feed their communities, the families waiting for their loved ones to be released, the heroes digging their people out of the rubble. They are courage and love, the resilience, the dignity, the humanity of the Palestinian people cannot be defeated. All our love to all the survivors. There can be no going back to the status quo of 76 years of settler colonialism. An end to visible genocide is not enough. The siege must end. The occupation must end. Apartheid must end. There must be justice. Settler colonies fall. The apartheid wall will fall. The prison doors will open. Palestinians will rebuild and make everywhere beautiful again. They will remain and they will return. Palestinians will free Palestine and they will free us all. Liberation is coming from the river to the sea. From Ireland to Palestine, we mourn your losses. We cherish your survival. We celebrate your enduring will and courage to the refugee camps, to the prisons, to the broken streets of Gaza, of Jenin, to all of Palestine. All our love and solidarity from Dublin. Free Palestine!